Thank you, Chair. Thank you for appearing again, Officer.
Senator.
How many complaints has your office received in relation to stolen wages from coal miners working for labour hire companies?
I will need to, we may or may not be able to give you that information right now, but I certainly cannot, so I will see whether any of my staff are able to assist. Ms Volsky, do you have those numbers?
Senator, I haven't got the exact number, but the requests for assistance are low. But you know, of course, that there are a number of formal investigations that we've had in relation to black coal mining employees.
Well, I understand, Ms Vols, that there have been 3 requests for Fair Work Ombudsman to investigate worker underpayment under the Black Coal Mining Industry Award already sent to your office recently.
We could ask Mr Scully if he's able to add to that information, as he's the responsible person.
Senator Mark Scully, Deputy Fair Work Ombudsman, Compliance and Enforcement. With respect to your first question, the information I have before me is that in respect to disputes received from employees and the participants in the coal mining industry, in the 2022-23 financial year there were 9, and this current financial year, up to the end of March, there have been 6.
Does that include the recent ones I've learned about?
I think the recent ones you're referring to one was in October 2021, another one was in April 2022 and June 2023, and my understanding is that they would be included in those numbers.
Yeah, I've learned of some others that were submitted, 3 in fact. The Independent Workers Union of Australia, I think they're called, Independent Workers Union of Australia, submitted, I'm told, via email address, 3 requests for Fair Work Ombudsman to investigate worker underpayment under the Black Coal Mining Industry Award. Each of the 3 on behalf of an underpaid coal miner. I think that was in the last week.
We didn't have that data available yet because it wouldn't have reached the status of an investigation. They'd have to be triaged first. So that will be for another Senate estimates. Senator?
Senator, would I be able to ask in relation to those most recent complaints, what sort of date, time in relation to the underpayments? Are we talking about historical, older underpayments?
It varies.
Okay.
Some are over extended years. I can give you some information. The miners whose assessments have been completed have given approval for their data to be shared with individual names withheld. And I can give you their Fair Work Ombudsman reference numbers. So, Coal Miner Fair Work Ombudsman reference number 3389142, years assessed, Ms Volz, 2013 to 2018. The amount underpaid, $121,000. One man. Maybe a woman. I know there are women involved. Coal Miner Fair Work Ombudsman reference number 3380088, years assessed 2013 to 2021, underpayment assessed at $104,000. Coal Miner Fair Work Ombudsman reference number 3380122. There are 5 years listed, but he or she is still doing assessments for another 3 years. The total there is so far is $54,000, but expected to top out at $85,000. So these are not small amounts of money. My understanding is that many more miners are now applying for the Independent Workers Union of Australia to lodge complaints or requests for investigation, I think you call them.
Requests for assistance.
Requests for assistance. Why?
So, Senator, in relation to those matters, again, I think they traverse a period of time when we had the SAGA legislation passed, which was the previous coalition government. We had the Rosato decision as well, and so those sit over the top, and of course, and now we've had the most recent legislation, and I think Minister Watt has referred to, I think, one of those same job, same pay orders already being made. But I think all of those matters that you raise, they still, I guess, raise those core issues that we spoke about previously when you and I met, I think, towards the beginning of last year, about the consequences of the Black Coal Mining Award not providing for casual employment, the statutory definition changes to casual employment that had retrospective
effect. Have you seen the
effect.
request for investigation?
No,
You
it's
haven't?
just by the dates that you've given me, that's all, Senator. So, look, and absolutely we will look at those, but I'm just saying they just traverse that same time period.
Senator, we call a request for assistance, and as you indicated, if they come in recently, then they will not have got to me or Mr. Ronson, who's with us today, also. So we will check out we will find where they are in our system and the circumstances regarding the request for assistance.
Thank you. Why are complainants limited in their request for assistance or request for investigation to only 1,000 characters in their request? That's about 130 words. To make a complaint about unfair work practices, including wage theft in the coal mining industry. Why are they limited?
I would imagine that is in order to have a website that's both capable of being properly hosted and information capable of being absorbed. The full extent of information that's provided to the Fair Work Ombudsman is not contained in those characters. That's a commencement process, and thereafter individuals who have made those communications with us would be spoken to.
Why does the Fair Work Ombudsman refuse then to accept complaints that are more detailed that can fit within a 1,000 character limit?
I'm going to ask Mr. Campbell. This is again at the moment the area of technology is in his purview. This will be entirely a technological matter, I'm thinking. But Mr. Campbell, are you able to say anything about our number of characters in our application, or not our application form, our communications form?
Sure.
Senator Roberts, I'm kind of going to have to guess a little bit in my answer, and I don't like to do that in this forum, but it depends on the channel in which the people you speak of have sought to engage with us. There would be, in certain channels we do have limited fields for the collection of information from customers, and normally that goes to complaints through our anonymous inquiry facility. But through my account, where we'd normally address most of our requests for assistance, there'd be the ability to capture more information, and that's normally because the person's given us all their information that was sought, and they're seeking to provide us then further information to assist us make an assessment of their RFA or request for assistance. So I'm not quite sure they're limited from providing more than the characters that you've said.
Well, my understanding is that they tried to make an application and they couldn't get beyond the bureaucratic brick wall of that 1,000 character limit, which is 130 words roughly, and they couldn't. So they eventually, why was there no email address on your website other than one that the submitters are told relates to freedom of information requests? So when they couldn't get their material under the 130 word limit, they then looked for an email, and the only one they could find they used, and they were told it was relates to freedom of information requests.
Senator, most of our requests for assistance come through a telephone contact. So, of course, our 131394 number gives no limit to the amount of information that can be conveyed. So that's that obviously that option, perhaps in this case, was not one that was undertaken by those people.
Well, these are pretty intelligent people. I'm surprised that they didn't see it.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to speak to that, Senator, because I'd be making a judgment of their intelligence, and I can't do that from here. But our request for assistance online lodgement capability seeks to authenticate the person that's contacting us, so we know who they are and who we're dealing with, and information about their circumstances. And that would include seeking them to detail their concerns to us. So it's not my recollection that that's limited. I'm happy to go and have a look, because it would seem at odds with how we're trying to collect information in the authenticated space. But as I offered at the start, there is a facility for people to make anonymous or provide us with anonymous information about a workplace or circumstance, and that might have a limited character overlay on top of it, which might be where they've started, as compared to seeking to raise with us a request for assistance using online lodgement.
They were wondering initially how they would get, say, a document with 20, 30, 40 pages of evidence, because these people have got a lot of evidence, but even just taking a small slice of it, how they would get that past that bureaucratic brick wall.
I don't think there is a bureaucratic brick wall, Senator.
So that's what they tell me.
Well, how about I take it on notice and I'll confirm it for you.
And as Fair Work Ombudsman, can I reassure the committee that there is no bureaucratic brick wall? If anything, the channels of communication into the Fair Work Ombudsman that I've observed since I have been Fair Work Ombudsman are many and varied, and there is just no constraint on the amount of information that can be provided.
So you would refute any suggestion that the Fair Work Ombudsman is trying to make it impossible for workers to provide evidence?
Absolutely, I would refute that.
Okay, well, could I have on notice that from Mr.
Campbell.
Yeah.
Oh, Campbell, that's easy to pronounce. I couldn't see it. So, no, I can see it now, Mr. Campbell, thank you. Could we have from you then a list?
I'll take that on notice and I'll cover it off.
A list of all the optional ways of getting through, and maybe some assessment of whether they're easy to identify those options, or easy to find for someone who launches onto your or lands on your website?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So how should workers submit a complaint? How do workers communicate with you? How do workers get through that 1,000-character limit? What are the options, Mr. Campbell?
Make a phone call, 13 13 94. Speak for as long as you like to a Fair Work advisor.
Okay. And then from there you would say send us the evidence?
It would be allocated to an officer for assessment and determination about what further assistance we might be able to add or offer, and if the circumstances as depicted to us warranted an intervention by an inspector, for example, it might be allocated to an inspector who would then consider it, and they might seek further particulars from the customer or the complainant, depending on the circumstances.
Would you consider, the Fair Work Ombudsman, consider creating an email account where complainants about wage theft can lodge their complaints in full with all documentation required to prove their complaint?
No, because
Why
it's an
not?
inefficient way to deal with disputes from customers.
Why is it inefficient?
Because they're unauthenticated contacts from a customer. Anyone can create an email address. What we seek to do is to create a picture of the customer so we can determine how we can best assess them, understand award coverage, understand which sections of the Fair Work Act might be triggered by their circumstances, make a determination on their level or ability to self-resolve their workplace dispute, whether or not they're still employed, the business they work for, the customer details. We have a portal which is used daily and regularly and very successfully by thousands of individuals every year, and is consistent with every other regulator in the Commonwealth and probably at the state level in terms of how they deal with volume complaints from their regulator community.
Okay. Is the Fair Work Ombudsman aware that the Senate has directed Minister Burke to investigate the multi-million-dollar wage theft, we estimate over $1 billion in total, conducted against labour hire coal miners where their 25% casual loading was not paid and an average of more than $30,000 per person per year was not paid?
I am aware that a resolution was passed in the Senate of that nature, Senator.
Thank
yes.
you. Are you aware that some miners are underpaid $40,000 a year per person for up to a decade?
I have no comment on that.
Okay. The number of miners we believe is around 5,000 or more.
No comment on that.
More than $1 billion in wages stolen estimated,
Again, no comment.
including an Australian subsidiary of the world's largest labour hire company, Japan's Recruit Holdings.
These are matters that you're asserting. I have no ability to verify them here, so I will not comment on them.
on behalf of some of the world's largest multinational global mining companies,
as indicated.
in collusion with the CFMEU that enabled the theft by illegal enterprise agreements, that the Fair Work Commission approved.
Again, no comment.
Is the Fair Work Ombudsman aware that the CFMEU/Mining and Energy Union has recently admitted publicly in circulars that wage theft has occurred?
I'm not aware of those alleged admissions in circulars, no.
They denied it for many years when I was raising these issues. Now they're admitting it publicly in email newsletter form. And they're basically admitting, vindicating what I've been saying for 5 years, including the amounts owed. Why has the CFMEU/the Mining and Energy Union not applied for back pay?
I can't read the mind of the CFMEU.
Has it applied to the Fair Work Ombudsman for a ruling?
A ruling?
Investigation. Has it made a complaint to the Fair Work Ombudsman about underpayment?
Not that I'm aware of. Mr Scully, as you previously heard, is responsible for that
Yes.
area, and I think...
Seems not. I would conclude not. So that means they certainly haven't applied for back pay. Perhaps that's why mine workers are now joining the Independent Workers Union of Australia in Central Queensland and the Hunter Valley, because they're finding they can make applications for back pay.
Again, I have no knowledge of that.
Will the Fair Work Ombudsman, along with the Fair Work Commission, accept some responsibility for the massive stolen wage bill that I've been raising for almost 5 years?
So, Senator, we're aware that the motion has been made, and we understand that in the evidence that was given yesterday that the department is considering their advice to the Minister on that, and we will await that as well, Senator.
Okay. I've been dismayed, so I won't raise the names, that the Fair Work Ombudsman has on a number of occasions relied in Senate estimates hearings on documents that I have argued and documented as being fraudulent, as has Simon Turner, and I showed those documents to be fraudulent. So, are you aware of that, Ms Booth?
I'm aware of your assertions, Senator Roberts, and my observation is that the Fair Work Ombudsman assesses a request for assistance comparing workers' actual payments received with their lawful entitlements under Fair Work instruments, and that is our obligation, and that is what we do.
And, Senator, we provided a formal letter, I'm assuming in relation to one of those complainants, under a letterhead dated the 23rd of July 2023 in relation to those allegations of fraudulent evidence.
And my understanding of that letter, Ms Volz, is that it ignores documented evidence and decisions from other federal government agencies saying that the document that the Fair Work Ombudsman agents, is that the word, officers, relied upon was not correct and was fraudulent. So, is that the same letter?
Look, Senator, it is, I think it's about a 6-page response, so I would consider it to be very thorough, and the outcome of our investigation into that is included in that letter.
I don't agree that just because something is lengthy is thorough.
So, Senator, I would say in relation to the investigations that we have undertaken in relation to a couple of individuals that I'm sure you're well aware of, I feel very confident that the Fair Work Ombudsman has undertaken an extremely comprehensive investigation in relation to all of those matters, and I feel very confident with the outcomes. In terms of what the law is and what the legal outcome is, I feel very confident in those outcomes, Senator.
Could we have a copy of that letter dated 23rd of July 23, please? It doesn't have to be right here, but on notice.
Oh, yes, Senator.
On notice.
Yes, of course.
Will the Fair Work Ombudsman continue to deny that the miners have been the victims of a massive fraud that labour hire companies have perpetrated?
Again, Senator, as the regulator, it's our role to apply the law as it currently stands, absolutely, including when an agreement has been approved as passing the boot by the Fair Work Commission. We apply that agreement, and that's exactly what we've done in relation to those investigations where there has been an agreement that has applied.
What about if the enterprise agreement is illegal?
So, Senator, I think we shouldn't speculate around hypotheticals. We know, and I think in previous estimates we've spoken about various cases. I think the Warren case, one key, and I think there's another more recent one. But the reality is that the effect of the Black Coal Mining Award not providing for casual employment in operational roles, the legal effect of that has not been comprehensively argued or subject to submissions by any party. So there has not been an authoritative determination on that issue, Senator.
I think it really is very important to understand the distinction between the role of the Fair Work Ombudsman and the role of the Fair Work Commission. Whatever we would like to be is not in our purview. We look at what is.
What
Is in terms of the law.
That's,
so we look at the law as it stands, not the law as to how it came into being or what it ought to be in the future.
That's fine. And we're seeing what seems to me, and I've been advised is correct, is criminal involvement of some CFMEU, Mining Energy Union bosses who facilitated, enabled and approved the wage theft through illegal enterprise agreements. I've asked Mr Campbell for the process that people can follow for various ways of applying, and could you consider and advise me of any ways that the Fair Work Ombudsman could consider to make the process easier, and maybe think about the perspective of someone making a complaint or a request, what they would confront when they log onto your website, and how that process could be made easier.
Senator, I've taken the questions on notice, and I've undertaken to get you the information. I don't want to open up the dialogue again, but I've said yes, so I will do it.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.